You're not blind. You're faking it to cause trouble. I saw you look right at me. Officer Miller's voice was loud and sharp, cutting through the quiet morning air. Stop resisting. Put your hands on the car. If you believe our veterans deserve respect, not abuse, type "respect vets" in the comments below. Arthur Benton stood still, his white cane clutched in one hand, the other hand slightly raised as if to shield himself from the officer's angry words. His clouded eyes, though sightless, were pointed in the direction of the shouting. He was an older man, his face etched with lines that told stories of a life lived with honor, but now those lines were deepened by confusion and a touch of fear. He had been walking slowly along the sidewalk, heading towards the community center. There was a small gathering for local veterans, a chance to share stories and a cup of coffee. It was something he looked forward to. The sun was warm on his face, and he had been enjoying the familiar sounds of his neighborhood. Then he had stumbled. His cane had missed the edge of a broken paving stone, and he had lurched, bumping into a parked car. It was a small thing, an accident. But Officer Miller, young and eager to show authority, had seen it differently. Arthur carried a worn leather wallet. Inside, tucked behind his VA identification card, was a faded photograph of a much younger Arthur in uniform, surrounded by smiling comrades. He also carried a small, smooth stone in his pocket, a memento from a place far away, a place where he had lost his sight but saved many lives. These were quiet reminders of a past he rarely spoke about. He wasn't one to boast, he just wanted to live a peaceful life. "I am blind, officer," Arthur said, his voice calm despite the tremor in his hands. "I tripped. I didn't mean to touch your car, if that's what this is about." Officer Miller scoffed. "Blind? Right. And I'm the president. You people always have an excuse. I think you were trying to see if it was unlocked. Maybe looking for something to steal." He stepped closer, his shadow falling over Arthur. "That's not true," Arthur said, trying to keep his voice steady. He had dealt with difficult people before, in situations far more dangerous than this. He knew staying calm was important. "I'm just going to the veterans meeting at the community center." "Veterans meeting?" Miller sneered, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. "You don't look like any veteran I've ever seen. You look like a troublemaker. Now, are you going to cooperate, or do I have to make you?" The officer's hand hovered near the taser on his belt. A wave of sadness washed over Arthur. He was hurt. After all he had done, after all he had given for his country, to be treated like this, to be disbelieved and accused on a sunny morning street, it was a heavy weight. He felt tired, a deep weariness that had nothing to do with his age. He thought about just turning around, going home, but why should he? He had done nothing wrong. He could ask for a supervisor, but this officer seemed too angry to listen to reason. Then, he remembered, a promise made long ago. A voice from his past saying, "If you ever, and I mean ever, need anything, Artie, you call this number, day or night." He hadn't thought of that number in years. He hadn't needed to. "Officer," Arthur said, his voice a little stronger now, "may I make a phone call? There's someone who can explain who I am." Miller laughed, a short, harsh sound. "A phone call? To who? Your imaginary friend? I don't think so. You're coming with me." He reached out to grab Arthur's arm. Arthur flinched. "Please, officer, it's important." As he spoke, he tried to reach into his inner jacket pocket for his phone, the one with the special tactile buttons he used. Seeing the movement, Miller reacted instantly. "He's going for a weapon," he yelled, though no one else was close enough to hear. He pulled his taser. "Freeze!" Before Arthur could explain, before he could even process the officer's mistaken fear, a sudden sharp pain shot through his body. His muscles locked. He cried out, a sound of pure agony, and collapsed to the ground, his white cane clattering beside him. The world, already dark, went utterly black with pain. Miller stood over him, taser still pointed, chest heaving. "Should have listened," he muttered, though a small seed of doubt was beginning to sprout in his mind. The old man hadn't seemed like a threat. Arthur lay there, the barbs of the taser stinging his skin. The pain was awful, but through it, a cold anger began to form. This was wrong. This was an injustice he could not let stand. With tremendous effort, while the officer was radioing in the resisting arrest, Arthur fumbled for his phone. His fingers, clumsy from the aftershocks of the electricity, found the familiar buttons. He pressed the speed dial he had programmed so long ago. The phone on the other end rang only once. Yes? A deep, authoritative voice answered. General. Arthur managed to say, his voice weak and raspy. It's Arthur Benton. 1. I'm in a bit of trouble. He gave his location, his words strained. There was a pause on the other end, then, Arthur, stay right there. Help is on the way. Do not worry. Help is coming. The line clicked off. Arthur lay still, breathing heavily. He didn't know how long he waited. It felt like an eternity. Officer Miller was now trying to pull him up, grumbling about paperwork. Other police cars had started to arrive, their sirens adding to the chaos. Passers-by were stopping to watch, their faces a mixture of curiosity and concern. What would you do if you saw something like this? Type "speak up" or "call help" below. Then, a new sound cut through the air. It wasn't the usual police siren. It was deeper, more powerful. A rumbling. It grew louder, closer. Heads turned. Even Officer Miller paused, looking down the street. Around the corner, not one, not two, but a convoy of dark green military vehicles appeared. They moved with a disciplined speed, lights flashing. They were Humvees and transport trucks, the kind you saw near a base, not in a quiet residential neighborhood. They pulled up, one after another, effectively blocking the street. Doors opened, and soldiers in full uniform began to disembark. They moved quickly, forming a loose perimeter. Officer Miller's jaw dropped, his face went pale. The other local police officers looked at each other, confused and alarmed. From the lead vehicle, a tall man in a general's uniform emerged. His face was stern, his eyes scanning the scene until they landed on Arthur, still on the ground, the taser wires visible. The general's expression hardened. He strode forward, his boots making a determined sound on the pavement. Two colonels flanked him. What in the blazes is going on here? The general boomed, his voice carrying undeniable authority. He knelt beside Arthur. Arthur, are you all right, my friend? Officer Miller, suddenly looking very small and very young, stammered, Sir, this man, he was resisting arrest. I suspected him of suspicious activity. The general looked up at Miller, his eyes like ice. Suspicious activity? Resisting arrest? This man is Master Sergeant Arthur Benton, retired. He is a recipient of the Medal of Honor. He has 3 Purple Hearts. He was blinded, saving my life and the lives of 10 other men under his command in Kandahar. Does that sound like suspicious activity to you, officer? A gasp went through the crowd of onlookers. The other police officers stared, dumbfounded. Miller looked like he had been punched. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The general gently helped Arthur to sit up. Paramedics from one of the military vehicles were already rushing forward with a stretcher and medical kit. This officer, the general said, his voice dripping with contempt as he gestured towards Miller, tased a blind war hero, a man who has given more for this country than he can possibly imagine. The police chief, who had been urgently summoned, arrived, sirens wailing. He took one look at the scene, the military presence, the decorated general, the stunned officer, and Arthur Benton being attended to by military medics, and his face turned ashen. General Peterson, the chief said, rushing forward, his hand extended. I am so sorry. I don't know what happened here, but I assure you, we will get to the bottom of this. General Peterson did not shake his hand. Chief, what happened here is an outrage, an absolute disgrace. This man, Arthur Benton, is a national hero, and your officer treated him like a criminal. The chief turned to Officer Miller, his eyes blazing with fury. Miller, your badge, your weapon, now, you are suspended, pending immediate investigation and termination. Miller, trembling, fumbled with his belt. He looked defeated, horrified. He finally understood the magnitude of his mistake. He had judged a man by his appearance, by his quiet demeanor, and he had been terribly, catastrophically wrong. The medics carefully examined Arthur, treating the taser burns. General Peterson stayed by his side, his hand resting on Arthur's shoulder. We'll get you taken care of, Artie, he said softly. I am so sorry this happened. Arthur, though still shaken, managed a weak smile. Thank you, James. You always did know how to make an entrance. The company, or in this case, the police department, made big changes after that day. Every officer had to go through new training. They learned about how to help people with disabilities. They learned to look past what they saw on the outside and to treat everyone with respect, especially veterans. Arthur got the medical care he needed. General Peterson himself drove him to the veterans' gathering, a little late, but with quite a story to tell. He was no longer just Arthur, the quiet blind man. He was Master Sergeant Arthur Benton, a hero recognized. The story of Officer Miller and the blind vet spread through the town and then further. People talked about it. They learned from it. It reminded everyone that heroes walk among us, often unseen, often unassuming, and they deserve our utmost respect. Arthur, for his part, stayed humble. He was glad that justice had been done, not just for him, but for the principle of the thing. He was happy that perhaps his bad experience could lead to better understanding and treatment for others. He continued to go to his veterans' meetings, sharing his coffee and his quiet wisdom. Remember, folks, don't judge a book by its cover. True heroes don't always wear capes or flashy uniforms. Sometimes they just carry a white cane and a heart full of courage. If you believe that all veterans deserve our honor and respect, please subscribe to this channel for more stories that matter, and type "Never Forget" in the comments if you stand with heroes like Arthur. Every act of kindness, every show of respect, makes a difference.